Good afternoon, students of Chinese YMCA Secondary School. We are now going to play you the news clip from yesterday.
9 people, including the 3 Occupy Central co-founders, appeared at the district court today. The trio's lawyer disputed the public nuisance charges filed against them. The court has adjourned a pre-trial review until January next year. Caleb Long has more.
Occupy Central co-founders Benny Tai, Chu Yu-ming and Chen Kin-man arrived at the district court this afternoon. They, as well as 6 other defendants, were cheered on by supporters. The Occupy Central co-founders were slapped with 3 charges each: conspiracy to commit public nuisance, inciting others to commit public nuisance, and inciting others to incite others to commit public nuisance. Meanwhile, lawmakers Tanya Chen and Xiu Ka-chun, activists Eason Chung and Tommy Cheung, as well as jailed League of Social Democrats Vice Chairman Raphael Wong, were charged with inciting others to commit public nuisance and inciting others to incite others to commit public nuisance. Former legislator Lee Wing-tat was charged with inciting others to commit public nuisance. Before the court session began, disqualified lawmaker Leung Kwok-hong chanted slogans with other supporters of the defendants inside the courtroom. Leung was then escorted away by security guards. The Occupy Trio's defense counsel Jared McCoy noted in court that his clients were highly motivated to plead guilty. However, he said the charges were overloaded and overcomplicated. The defense counsel believes an authorized assembly would be the more appropriate charge. McCoy also demanded the prosecution side clarify the details of the charges, including the exact location of the incident. He also noted the incident location for the case involving the trio is different from that involving Raphael Wong and Lee Wing-tat, and asked the court to separate the cases. The court adjourned the pre-trial review until January 9th, and it is expected to take 4 days. Both the prosecution and defense sides were asked to hand in their submissions on the legal issues by December. Caleb Leung, TVB News.
The chief executive said today she backs the anti-independence stance of 10 university heads and denied she'd exerted pressure on them to make their position clear. Carrie Lam also condemned the use of insulting and intimidating remarks used in heated debates on Hong Kong's independence from the mainland. A firestorm of controversy erupted when posters bearing the words Hong Kong independence cropped up at the Chinese University of Hong Kong at the start of term. Similar messages then appeared at other institutions. 10 university heads issued a joint statement on Friday condemning the recent abuses of freedom of expression and making clear their anti-independence stance. The CE told reporters ahead of today's Executive Council meeting that independence banners being posted at campuses should not be allowed to continue.
Because that statement simply states that, yes, we have freedom of expression and we should safeguard the freedom of expression. But that doesn't mean that you could breach the basic law. There is no room for any discussion on the independence of Hong Kong, because that breaches one country, 2 systems, which underlines the prosperity and stability of Hong Kong. That violates the basic law and is absolutely not in the overall interest of Hong Kong.
Meanwhile, Hong Kong's last British governor, Chris Patten, called for more effort in engaging restive young people, but also urged the youngsters to back off the independence issue.
I think it's extremely important that we preserve freedom of speech, but it always has to be exercised within certain limits, and particularly with some understanding of seemliness. I don't think it's right, for example, to welcome somebody's suicide or to welcome the death of a Nobel laureate. So I think that everybody has to cool down.
The chief executive today also dismissed accusations that she had exerted pressure on the university heads before they released the joint statement.
I have absolutely no intention right now to interfere into university management. I think you have underestimated the independent thinking of our university heads. I don't think they could be easily influenced by a chief executive.
The CE also condemned the use of insulting and intimidating remarks made during increasingly heated debates on independence.
I have noticed that this debate has sort of spread it into society at large, with people taking sides and using very foul language and so on. I think that is most unhealthy and totally unnecessary for Hong Kong.
She did not name legislator Junius Ho, who has caused controversy after he called for the killing of those who advocate independence.
And the chief executive also revealed that the government would be lifting its ban on online media covering its press conferences. Carrie Lam said the decision was made after a review of the government's policy and that the Information Services Department would launch a reasonable, fair and practical mechanism. She added that 5 media groups were consulted and they generally agreed the trend was towards opening up to online media. Lam noted that with the increasing prevalence of digital media, she believes the existing policy is outdated. The Hong Kong Journalists Association welcomed what it termed a long overdue decision. It called on the government to make adjustments to its press venues to accommodate the expected increase in reporters.
A police manhunt is underway for 3 robbers suspected of stealing around $24 million in valuables from a well-known jeweller's in Tsim Sha Tsui. Investigators say they're monitoring local markets to see if the jewels resurface for sale. The daring daylight heist took place at around 10 a.m. at Silvercord Shopping Arcade on Canton Road and lasted a few minutes. Witnesses told investigators that 2 of the masked robbers used hammers to smash the shop window and grab some jewels. Officers checked security footage, which confirmed the witness statements. It showed 2 suspects in dark clothing wearing baseball caps and face masks and carrying hammers.
2 males approached the shop with large-sized hammers and hit the display window of the jewelry shop with the hammers. When the windows break up, they reach inside to take away 9 pieces of jewelry, valued at about 24 million Hong Kong dollars. The 2 males then jumped onto a getaway motorcycle driven by a 3rd person, and the motorcycle went along on Canton Road towards Salisbury Road.
The motorcycle was also earlier reported lost to police, and officers found 2 hammers and a cap on Canton Road. Sources say the suspects are non-ethnic Chinese. The trio managed to escape with jewellery that included a diamond necklace, bracelet and rings, and some jade earrings. Yau Tsim District Crime Squad officers are monitoring local markets to see if the gems resurface for sale. Just 12 hours earlier, Kowloon West Police, acting on a tip-off, foiled a gang of 6 men who had targeted a watch store on the ground floor of Champagne Court on Kimberley Road in Tsim Sha Tsui. They nabbed 2 Hong Kong men thought to be the masterminds of the heist and 4 mainland men believed to have been recruited to take part in the robbery who had entered Hong Kong illegally. The 4 mainlanders were about to break into the shop when they were ambushed by police. Officers found 2 9-inch-long tasers as well as 2 19-inch-long butcher knives. They also stopped 2 cars nearby with fake license plates, which are suspected to be the gang's getaway vehicles.
Turning overseas now, Myanmar leader Aung San Suu Kyi gave her first address today since attacks by Rohingya Muslim insurgents last month sparked a military response that has forced hundreds of thousands to flee. She condemned any human rights violations against the Rohingya, but insisted the situation was complex and gradually improving.
Myanmar's state councillor and de facto leader Aung San Suu Kyi has been under tremendous pressure to speak out against what appears to be a campaign of ethnic cleansing against the country's minority Rohingya Muslims. Suu Kyi has been ambivalent at best about the issue, saying little while hundreds of thousands of Rohingya have fled the violence engulfing the troubled Rakhine state. But today she sought to set the record straight. She condemned all human rights violations and said violators would be brought to justice.
It is not the intention of the Myanmar government to apportion blame or to abnegate responsibility. We condemn all human rights violations and unlawful violence. We are committed to the restoration of peace, stability and rule of law throughout the state.
The Nobel Peace Laureate's remarks came in her first address to the nation since attacks by Rohingya Muslim insurgents last month sparked a military response that has forced more than 410,000 into neighbouring Bangladesh. But Suu Kyi maintained that while many had fled, many others chose to remain.
I think it is very little known that the great majority of Muslims in the Rakhine State have not joined the exodus. More than 50% of the villages of Muslims are intact.
She said her country does not fear international scrutiny and invited diplomats to see some areas for themselves. Many diplomats and aid officials who listened to the speech welcomed the tone of Suu Kyi's message.
She's stated that she wants everyone to work together for peace and reconciliation, so that's what we take and that's what we will try and do.
I would simply say one thing, that whatever she said is encouraging, and we'll have to implement that in the right spirit.
Still, others doubted if she had done enough to deflect the barrage of global criticism for Myanmar, adding that the once global icon for freedom and liberty was burying her head in the sand.